Hey everybody, welcome and thank you so much for being here today, even if it's virtually. My name is Liz with thelemonbowl.com and I'm so happy to talk to you today to provide a little bit of inspiration specifically around Easter brunch. So, a bit about myself before we dive into the fun stuff. My website is thelemonbowl.com and it's a healthy recipe blog full of over 1,500 delicious, easy recipes that are full of flavor and just so happen to be pretty good for you. I'm also a mother of 2 boys here in West Michigan, so I've got my hands full just like many of you. Again, you can find me anywhere on social media if you want to connect at any time at The Lemon Bowl, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I'd love to connect with you anytime, even after today. Speaking of today, the reason I wanted to join Harry and David right now is to talk about Easter brunch. It's right around the corner, and if you are anything like me, it probably looks a little bit different this year as it has to years past, but that doesn't mean that it can't be fun, delicious, special, but still easy to pull off. By the way, you guys, let me know where you're from as I'm going throughout this. So whether you're just tuning in now or you hear this later, let me know where you're from. I'd love to look back at the comments and say hi. Okay, let's talk Easter brunch. The thing this year is that it might not look the same, but that doesn't mean it can't still be special. So I thought today I would just share a few easy little tricks, maybe you call them little hacks, that I do to make it seem special, even if it is just my intimate family or just you and another family, whether you're with 2 people, 5 people, or maybe a couple families. There are a lot of little tricks you can take to make it still seem special. After all, it is a holiday. And I also want to let you know that special doesn't mean it has to be hard work or difficult or mean you have to spend hours in the kitchen getting ready to have over loved ones to celebrate. So, speaking of celebrate, I thought I would share a few ways that I've celebrated Easter in the past and some of our family's Easter traditions. So we actually celebrate the Greek Orthodox Easter, which happens at a different date, but right around the same time of year. And if your family's anything like mine, it's always about the food, right? The spread, the ham. Sometimes we'll have lasagna, which is traditional in my husband's Italian-American family. It's really just all about good food, bringing together your loved ones at the table and spending time together. That's really what it's all about. It always goes back to the food in my house. Anybody else agree? Speaking of, it's time for our first this or that, which we're gonna do throughout this whole day. I would like to know, mimosa or Bloody Mary? What is your brunch drink of choice? Are you on Team Mimosa or Team Bloody Mary? Weigh in the comments below. Speaking of mimosa, I thought we'd start with a fun little twist on the traditional mimosa, which I like to make. And this is a pineapple Bellini. You guys, Bellini is just a fancy word for fruit juice and sparkling wine, but we're gonna make it. And this is a really easy way to elevate your brunch for Easter. Again, it is a holiday, it's a special occasion. And while the traditional mimosa is, of course, orange juice and sparkling wine, you can use peach juice or mango nectar or pineapple juice. And those are just fun little ways to switch it up a notch, make it a little bit special for the holiday. Okay, so in some champagne flutes, I've got a little bit of pineapple juice. You can decide if you like your mimosas heavy on the sparkling wine, heavy on the juice, it's up to you. I like to kind of go, let's say about halfway up. And then of course we're gonna use Harry and David's sparkling wine. And you're just gonna basically top the pineapple juice with the sparkling wine. Now, if you're not familiar, one of the reasons I love Harry and David's sparkling wine is it's, of course, super effervescent, refreshing, crisp and chilled, but it also actually tastes a little bit like stone fruits, apples, pears. It's very fruity. And that lends itself really well to brunch, which is, of course, inherently has some fruity components to it. And of course, specifically with the Bellini, made with fruit juice. So even if you're not a big wine drinker, or maybe some of your family members aren't big wine drinkers, I think they're gonna like these Bellinis either way. And again, weigh in below, please. Are you Team Mimosa or Bloody Mary? I wanna know. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip. Ooh, It's so good. You have a little bit of tart, a little bit of sweet. It's really refreshing, and it's very bright and cherry, which lends itself really well to this time of day when you're typically having people over midday for brunch. Speaking of brunch, I thought it might be nice to share a few ways that you can, I almost call it cooking dinner without cooking dinner. You're essentially creating brunch boards, which is kind of a more elegant way of saying a buffet, but it's really fun because it allows people to pick and choose what they want to enjoy. And brunch is especially fun because you can have a mix of both savory, sweet, breakfast, and lunch foods all at one time, which if you're a busy mom like me, or you're just busy in general, you kind of, kill two birds with one stone, getting breakfast and lunch taken care of in one big family meal. So brunch is always great. And then when it's over, you still have your full day left. Pro tip. So I'm going to talk you through a few things that I have out here on my Easter brunch boards, but of course, so much of this can be made your own. So feel free to mix and match with your family's favorite items, and I'm just going to share a few of ours. Of course, you can't talk about Easter brunch without talking about, you know the drill, ham. Is there anything better than a delicious spiral cut ham? If anything, ham just means the holidays, right? So I wanted to share a few ways that I like to sort of spruce up my spiral cut ham, which of course came from Harry and David. And while you certainly could just enjoy it as is at room temperature or heat it up, there are a few simple additions that you can make to just make the ham a little bit more special. Again, it is a holiday. We want to celebrate with our family, and I just wanted to share a few little tricks you could do to make it a little bit more special for Easter. So when it comes to a ham, and this is just something I learned from my mom growing up, we love to mix together mustard and honey. And that tangy mustard, typically you want a nice Dijon, which is a little bit spicy. It's got a little bit of acidity. And then the sweet, delicious, creamy honey. When you mix those two together and you just brush it over your ham, it's the perfect glaze. It's really no effort, really easy to do, and everyone generally always has honey and mustard on hand, so it doesn't require too many extra trips to the grocery store, which we're always trying to cut back on these days. So speaking of ham, let's talk about how to use it. And actually, I'm going to talk about a few ways I like to serve it for Easter, and then a few ideas for leftovers, because hams are, of course, a large cut by nature, which means that this year you're probably going to have more leftovers than normal, right? Don't worry, that's a good thing. I'm always thinking, what could I make that I would have leftovers? Because that saves me time throughout the whole rest of the week, right? So to start, when you're making your brunch boards, just have the ham out and allow people to help themselves. Of course, it's delicious on its own. You could also enjoy it in an English muffin, which, by the way, I'm going to get to these delicious Wolfman's English muffins in a minute. You can make a breakfast sandwich with them, but we really like it plain. It's just like that nice, smoky, salty addition to the plate that complements everything else. Of course, you've got some mashed potatoes, some green beans, tons of fresh fruit. There's really not much you need to do to the ham, and that's why it's so amazing, everyone, because it's easy, it's effortless. And by the way, chime in below in the comments if you are a big fan of spiral cut ham, just like I am. I wanna hear everyone's opinions. Okay, now that Easter Day is come and gone, what can you do with the leftover ham, right? This is such a common, and by the way, again, let us know below what your favorite uses are for leftover ham, but I'm gonna share a few of mine. First things first, I love to make a big pot of ham and bean soup. In general, I typically do it in the slow cooker, and you can certainly find a recipe on thelemonbowl.com for that recipe. And the soup essentially flavors the beans. I love to start with dried beans that I've soaked overnight. And beans, of course, are protein packed, full of fiber, nutrients, vitamins. And the ham is just so packed with flavor, smoky, salty, delicious flavor that perfectly cooks, or I should say flavors the beans as you cook the soup. So everything else in the soup is pretty customary: carrot, celery, onion, the typical mirepoix, but soup is always number one. Okay, next idea for leftovers, I love to make ham and cheese egg cups. The secret to that, you use a muffin tin. So you get out your typical muffin pan and you just whisk together egg, chopped up ham. You could add veggies, cheese, whatever you wish. and you pour individual portions, about a quarter cup or so of that mixture, and you bake them in the oven, and then you have little individual ham and cheese egg cups that you can eat throughout the week. They're high protein, they're naturally, low carb, so they're a really good source of protein. But what I really like is they save me a lot of time during the weekday when my kids are rushing off to school or they want a quick breakfast. And it's nice to have a hot breakfast because it can still be a little bit chilly this time of year where I live especially. Okay, that is my recommendation. The other thing I will always say is you can freeze leftover ham. So chop it up, put it in a bag, remove all the excess air, and freeze it for later. There will be another time where you'll want to have it. Again, for soups, you can make fried rice with it, pastas. The options are limitless, but I really encourage you to not steer clear of the larger cuts of meat like a ham, even if you are having a small gathering this year, because it's just always nice to have for later on. Okay. Now I'm going to talk to you a bit about setting up the brunch boards and how to make it a little bit more elegant and fun and special because of course it is Easter and it's a special occasion, right? So of course we've got some fresh tulips here. You guys, nothing says spring like fresh flowers. Of course these are from 1-800-Flowers, Harry and David's sister company, but fresh flowers just add a bunch of, it just makes everyone feel good. You walk through a room and you see fresh flowers, it cheers you up, right? And we all need those mood lifters this year. And if anything too, it just helps, denote that the day is a special occasion. It's just not your typical breakfast. And one of my favorite items to add to my brunch boards are these thick and delicious Wolferman's English muffins. You guys, what is this, 2 inches thick? This is so great because it means you can load it up with all the good stuff. So of course I like to split them in half and toast them, and a couple ideas for how to serve these. Now of course you're going to want to have your traditional spreads, you've got butter, jams, etc. But these are also really great for breakfast sandwiches with your ham. I could just see either some scrambled eggs piled up or even a fried egg, maybe some melted cheese, some ham. The great thing about these English muffins is they're super thick, so they'll really be able to hold whatever you want to put into that sandwich. Another idea is if you want to make eggs Benedict, these are really great for that because there's plenty of, nooks and crannies to really absorb all that delicious hollandaise sauce. And of course, as you're eating on the plate, it'll just absorb all that goodness, which is always a good thing when it comes to eggs Benedict, am I right? Okay, so we've got those out. Again, people can help themselves, or you could even pre-make some egg sandwiches, egg and ham sandwiches, and put those out. Totally up to you. But again, this is a great way to just kind of elevate from your typical, white bread, sandwich bread toast that you might generally have for breakfast, right? Okay, now we've also got some fresh fruit here. I love to basically have it look like the rainbow at all times. So we've got berries, clementines, grapes, whatever you can get your hands on, whether you've got some fresh pears, some grapefruit, some oranges. I just think it's always nice to have it be super bright and colorful. That way, again, it just it brightens the whole mood. It's spring, right? We're getting close to spring. Even if it doesn't feel like it yet, it can at least look like spring on the plate, right? And I have little boys, and I've always noticed that the prettier it all looks, the more inclined they are to eat it. Now, one thing I don't have to work hard to get them to eat are Cheryl's cookies. Look at these cute, decorated Easter cookies. Again, Cheryl's is one of Harry and David's sister companies. And this leads me to one of my pro tips when it comes to effortless Easter entertaining. You don't have to do everything. I repeat, you don't have to do everything. No one wants a stressed out host that's been in the kitchen all day, working so hard to cook everything from scratch. You don't need to do that, right? So dessert is always my favorite place to get a little help. Again, Cheryl's cookies is the perfect thing. Look, they have these cute ones. Look, I think this is a little carrot. If that's not the cutest cookie you've ever seen, I don't know what is. So I really recommend, don't be afraid to get some help, especially with dessert. Dessert's just an easy thing that you can have on hand, ready to go whenever people come over. Maybe your grandkids stop by, or maybe you just want to have it with a cup of tea, or you're having Easter brunch. Having some of the Cheryl's cookies on hand just kind of takes off the pressure of you feeling like you have to make every, course from scratch. You don't have to. I certainly won't tell. And I know for a fact I couldn't decorate them that cute. So my next tip is have some ready-made appetizers in your freezer. So these are little bite-sized quiche. These are some phyllo, wrapped asparagus. Having those on hand, again, in the freezer, there's a couple benefits to that. Number one, you can just pull out as many as you need. Again, this year Easter does look a little bit different than in the past. You might not have as many people, so you could potentially take out 4, 8, 12, just as many as you need, which is always nice because then you're eliminating waste and you're just taking out what you need. And it saves you time and effort and, most importantly, stress, because this is a holiday. It's meant to be relaxed and casual, right? Guys, it's time for another this or that. I want you to let me know in the comments below, when it comes to brunch foods, do you prefer the savory or the sweet? Are you going to the ham first, or are you taking a bite of some of these English muffins with jam on it, or maybe a bite of this cake over here? Which way do you go? I want to know. I personally do tend to go to more of the savory, so I want to hear from you below. Let me know. Now I want to give you a few tricks for how to style your Easter brunch boards, buffet, whatever you want to call it. Because you guys, look, I am not an event planner. I'm not a designer. I am not naturally creative in this world, but I've learned a few easy, effortless tricks to setting up something that is beautiful, functional, and sets the day apart from every other day so that you really do feel like it's a special occasion, a holiday, and then your family knows that you love them, right? So going back, first rule, fresh flowers. We already covered that, but I can't stress enough, fresh flowers is one of the easiest ways to elevate any occasion. And again, 1-800-Flowers means you don't even have to leave your house to have them. They can come to your doorstep. Fresh flowers, I can't recommend enough. Next, try to incorporate a little bit of linen. So I've got here a tablecloth that I've just basically laid out almost as a runner. And again, this could be something really affordable that you find at the craft store. It doesn't need to be fancy, and it really doesn't matter what type of tablecloth it is, but just a little bit of something that adds a different texture to your, I have it set up right now on my kitchen island. You could of course run this across your dinner table, totally up to you, but everyone knows if they walk in a room and there's a tablecloth out, that this is a special occasion, that this is, it's Easter. So this is the time to get out your tablecloth, but it doesn't mean you have to take out your fine china. We're just making a little bit of an effort to make it a special day, right? Next up, I really recommend incorporating fresh fruit throughout, both in the whole form as well as ready to eat and grab. So we do have some whole clementines out. You could put out, we've got a grapefruit here, you could put out whole oranges, but we also have grapes and berries that are ready to be eaten right like that. So think of it almost like a charcuterie board. You just want to have a mixture of sizes, shapes, colors, textures. All of that will just kind of, again, it'll be appeasing to the eye and it'll make people excited about the special occasion. And again, it doesn't take too much effort because you're not necessarily cooking anything, you're just really assembling it into a beautiful board. Next up, let's talk about accompaniments. So of course with ham, I've got out some mustard, some Harry and David honey. You've got some preserves out for your English muffins. You just want to think about, as you're setting things out, what would people want to serve with it? What are some of those little accompaniments that would be nice to add on top? And this is where you guys can get creative. So let me know in the comments below, what do you like to top your English muffin with, for example? Let us know below. For example, I love a little toasted English muffin with some creamy peanut butter. I love when the peanut butter starts to melt because the English muffin is still warm. There's really nothing better than that. So I might put out a little bowl of peanut butter, but again, it doesn't need to be super crazy or fancy. Use what you have on hand. Again, this is meant to be effortless, right? Okay, next up, you can always have out some pre-made desserts. We've got some delicious cheesecakes over there. We've got some Harry and David candies. Again, go through your pantry, go through your freezer, see what you have available, and just kind of sprinkle it throughout. That's gonna just make it seem special and fun. My kids, if they come in, they see fresh fruit sitting next to some chocolates, they're gonna be excited. They're gonna know this is a special day. And it's all about making things a little bit special so that people have those fun memories in the future. My other tip is, and I don't have them out right now, but you can always put out some little candles throughout. Those are always a good idea. I feel like candlelight just kind of makes the room glow. It adds, again, different textures and, I don't even know the right way to call it, but it makes things fun and beautiful. And generally speaking, we all have candles sitting around our house. This is the time to bring them out. Even the little tea lights would be perfect. And again, we're just trying to find easy ways to make it special, even though Easter looks a little bit differently this year. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about wine to serve with your Easter meal. And actually, a few of you might be having Easter dinner, not Easter brunch. So wine might be even more part of the day than it might be at brunch. In fact, again, weigh in below, do you tend to celebrate Easter brunch or dinner? I wanna know. We actually generally do dinner more than brunch, I would say, but I have to say this is changing my mind. This is fun and easy. Dinner, wine. What wine to serve at Easter? My rule of thumb is Easter tends to have slightly heavier dishes. You've got your creamy mashed potatoes, your honey baked ham that's got the honey mustard glaze. You kind of want something to lighten it up. And I always lean towards the more acidic wines like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Chardonnay. Again, the white wine just tends to be crisp, light, delicious, refreshing, and I feel like it balances off with some of the heavier dishes you might be having at Easter. But you guys, there's no rules. Use the wine you like. That's the best tip of all. Buy the wine you like. Buy the wine your family enjoys drinking and have it at that. Or use the wine you have on hand. The goal is to make it easy and effortless. We're not looking to add more stress. We've had enough of that, right? We want to make things fun and easy. So use the wine you have on hand. But if you are looking for a recommendation, I'm a Sauvignon Blanc girl. I think it's crisp, bright, refreshing, and perfect to serve with your Easter meal. Okay, everybody, that's all from me. Thank you so much for being here today. Please, please, please tag at Harry and David on social media or head to harryanddavid.com to get more tips and tricks and even just great, delicious foods to fill your Easter brunch up with. Right at harryanddavid.com, and use the hashtag #ShareMore so we can see your celebrations at home this year. We would love to hear from you. Again, my name is Della Croce at thelemonbowl.com. You can connect with me at The Lemon Bowl on Facebook or Instagram or at thelemonbowl.com. I would love to hear from you. Have a wonderful, happy, safe, and healthy Easter, and thank you again for tuning in.